The trailer opens on a shot of Kid Thor running through the woods, but when he passes behind a tree, he changes in appearance and we get the first Easter egg in the trailer that you may have missed. The first change Thor makes you might not recognize, but it's a comic-accurate version of Thor as a young man. Once he passes behind a second tree, he changes to the Thor most MCU fans will recognize, since it's the one we met in the first Thor film from 2011. Next, we see Thor walking through a fiery inferno, sporting a new fur-lined cape. As the voiceover mentions, these hands were once used for battle. Thor buries his hammer, Stormbreaker, in the dirt, saying, "Now they are but humble tools of peace," suggesting he might be giving up his life as a warrior. But did you notice that this is also a nod to the fact that Stormbreaker's handle is made from a piece of Groot? And how we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy that after Groot sacrificed himself, Rocket Raccoon planted a sliver of Groot from which a baby Groot was born. The last time we saw Thor was at the end of the Avengers Endgame, where he was coming out of a depression and had put on just a little bit of weight following the defeat of Thanos. Dad Bod Thor, or Dude Thor as he's also known, is back, but he looks ready to get back to his old physique, since we see him hitting the workouts pretty hard. Thor's working out by whipping some battle ropes, though battle chains would be more accurate, since they're attached to a giant chained-up skeleton that looks to belong to a huge alien creature that was bound up until it died. If you're not too distracted by the chained-up giant, then you might have noticed that Thor is also sporting his strongest Avenger hat, a nod to his rivalry with the Hulk over who is actually the most powerful member of the Avengers. Thor gets back into fighting shape, unveiling his new look for the film, a red cut-off leather jacket and graphic t-shirt. This is a far cry from the previous versions of Thor we've seen in the MCU, but this Thor has another comic inspiration who you might not be aware of. The look is inspired by the comic character Thunderstrike, who also sports a cut-off red leather jacket. But that comic version of Thor is actually a completely separate character named Eric Masterson. Eric crossed paths with Thor in 1988 as a supporting character and was briefly given Thor's powers after the original Thor was sealed inside Eric's mind by Odin in order to save Eric's life. Eric ultimately becomes his own separate version of Thor and adopts the name Thunderstrike, and it looks like the MCU writers are paying homage to the character by giving the real Thor his costume. Thor wishes to choose his own path, letting go of the responsibilities of keeping New Asgard safe and joining up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. We already saw him hand over the keys to New Asgard to Valkyrie at the end of Endgame, and it looks from the trailer that he's committed to that decision. We also catch a glimpse of the friendly feud brewing between him and Peter Quill over the leadership of the Guardians, and it appears this feud is going to be expanded upon in the new film. We then see Peter Quill surrounded by a race of blue aliens, possibly indigenous to some new planet, and on his left is Mantis, sporting a giant space blaster. Thor tosses off his cloak as it lands on top of the blue alien chief, and if you're quick, you can see that we get our first glimpse of a young adult Groot and Rocket. Behind Thor, we can also see Nebula, which gives more evidence that this movie is picking up on the adventures of the Guardians of the Galaxy post-Endgame. Thor stands ready to face whatever foe is attacking them as the rest of the team takes cover behind some rocks. There's also some giant smoke plumes on the planet, suggesting the Guardians might have accidentally landed on a war-torn planet in need of saving. The next shot features Thor back in his Asgardian costume, leaning against Stormbreaker, as the Guardians of the Galaxy charge into battle. Thor turns his back on the team, setting things up for his own solo adventure. But did you notice the quick glimpse we get of Kraglin sporting Yondu's fin, as he now has fully embraced his new role with the Guardians? Thor: Love and Thunder is the fourth installment for this character, giving him the most solo films out of any character in the MCU. Love and Thunder is a culmination of the character's journey from the beginning with Thor, Thor: Dark World, and Thor: Ragnarok. This puts the character's total film appearances at 9, tied with Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, and just one shy of Nick Fury and the founder of the MCU, Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, who both have 10 appearances. Peter Quill's ship, the Milano, then lifts off and jumps through space. Did you notice that the honeycomb space portal is reminiscent of the famous jump scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where Rocket, Baby Groot, and Yondu jump through 700 planets at a time, causing their features to stretch out and distort? Thor stands next to Korg, his faithful friend from Ragnarok and roommate in Endgame, as Thor declares his superheroing days are over. We arrive at another unfamiliar planet, where there's a ship being pulled by two goat-looking animals, which you might have missed as a nod to Thor's chariot in the comics. The planet features an elaborate floating city in the sky as a ship streaks across the frame. We see this new ship actually belongs to Thor as he plays out a pirate fantasy on the helm of the ship as it sails on a body of water. In the background, we see a brief glimpse of a kraken-like creature that has sunk another pirate ship. Thor catches a blue-haired character who we've not seen before and gives her a kiss, which looks like something straight out of a Harlequin's romance novel. Thor's ship isn't limited to the seas though, and we see it has the ability to travel space. With Thor back in his Asgardian armor, he heads toward a new planet using Stormbreaker. If you remember, in Avengers Infinity War, Thor uses Stormbreaker to teleport himself, Rocket, and Groot to Wakanda to fight off Thanos' horde. Stormbreaker is able to channel dimensional energy and summon the Bifrost Bridge. This is something Thor's best friend Heimdall would do when he served as the gatekeeper for Asgard, before being killed by Thanos in Avengers Infinity War. Next, we see a hand reach up and catch a lightning bolt. This is Zeus, who we know is being played by Russell Crowe since he accidentally revealed the name of the secret character he was playing on an Australian morning radio show. The scene is most likely taking place on Olympus and could have Thor crossing paths with more of the Greek gods. We then get a shot from behind Zeus as he greets a stadium filled with adoring fans. Thor and Korg have teamed up as the two stand in front of a giant corpse of a frozen creature, slightly reminiscent of the frozen celestial at the end of the Eternals. But there's something else you might have missed about this shot. It is directly adapted from one of the comics, Thor God of Thunder #3. Next, we see New Asgard as Thor's new ship flies above it. New Asgard seems to have become something of a tourist attraction, since there are several luxury cruise ships in the background. There's also a van labeled New Asgard Tours with Thor's original hammer, Mjolnir, as the logo. It doesn't appear that Valkyrie is enjoying her new role as governor of New Asgard, sitting at the head of the diplomatic table and wearing a suit and tie. Valkyrie is a warrior, and while she was glad to keep New Asgard safe, the role of a diplomat is better suited for someone else. Valkyrie will likely be needed in a final battle against the film's villain, giving her a chance to become a warrior once again. That final villain is as yet unseen, but it's already been revealed elsewhere that Christian Bale has been cast as Gore the God Butcher. This next part of the trailer will have fans freaking out. Mjolnir flies through the air before it's caught. But did you notice that this isn't the same Mjolnir Steve Rogers wielded in Endgame? This is the Mjolnir that was shattered by Hela in Thor Ragnarok, as evidenced by the glowing cracks on it, but it appears to have been completely repaired. Thor is just as shocked as we are, especially by the reveal of who's wielding it. It's Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman. This is the first full reveal of Jane Foster wearing the comics-accurate costume of mighty Thor, Goddess of Thunder. In the comics, Thor perishes and Earth is in need of a new guardian. Jane is deemed worthy by the hammer, and after that she's able to wield Mjolnir, gaining the full powers of Thor. Jane Foster's Mighty Thor debuted in Thor #1 Volume 4, which was released in 2014. Fans have been waiting for Portman's appearance as the Mighty Thor since 2019, when director Taika Waititi handed over Mjolnir to her in front of a packed house at San Diego Comic-Con. As the MCU continues to expand into Phase 4, the original Avengers are all being phased out and replaced by the next in line. We saw this with Captain America's shield being passed to Sam at the end of Endgame, who is set to star in his own Captain America film after the events of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Peter Parker took on the burden of being Tony Stark's successor in Spider-Man Far From Home before finding the hero he is meant to become. Hawkeye passed the bow and arrow to Kate Bishop in the Disney Plus series of the same name. Natasha Romanoff left a void to fill after she sacrificed herself in Endgame, and we saw in Black Widow that Yelena can fill those shoes. That just leaves Hulk, who we know will also be passing the torch when She-Hulk debuts on Disney Plus in late 2022. Although it's hard to say goodbye to some of your favorite heroes, this is in line with the Marvel Comics and will keep the MCU going for years to come. I hope you liked the video and found some things you missed in the first trailer for Thor Love and Thunder. Let us know which movie we should do next, and make sure you subscribe to Movie Logic for more daily movie facts, trivia, and Easter eggs.